He talks about art being the highways on which the spirit travels. Talks about it being a signpost toward God. And I think art has the most incredible opportunity to bypass the head and go straight to the heart.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is part 2 of season 3. We took a little hiatus, took a little break with school ending, summer coming, but
I know that's
we're
like
back.
heresy. I don't think we're allowed to take breaks.
No,
Our community doesn't take breaks. So
they don't. Yeah.
We're sorry about that. We did some
ourselves.
planning. We did some recording of some awesome courses for the Salt community site. So we have not really had a break. We just took a break of podcast.
Oh, yeah. But I do have to say, because we're still in the year of the new studio,
Yeah.
if you are listening but not watching on YouTube, go check us out, Salt Community on YouTube. Check out the studio, watch us, see our faces.
Here's a challenge.
Yeah.
If you have watched this season, and this isn't just the only one you're listening to or watching to, I want you to go onto Instagram or go onto YouTube and comment your favorite Easter egg you've seen in the background.
Oh, you're calling it out.
Yeah,
You're
I
doing
think
it.
it'd be fun to have you catch those.
We've had a lot of fun
We've had
with
fun.
the background, for sure. Lots of nerdy little elements in there.
Fun little insight, by the way. Most of these items behind us that have been rotating out are genuine items that we just find in the building. So we either steal them from people's desks, or we've stolen them from our warehouse or a repair shop or whatever. People on our team know that we're recording these, and they're like, "Oh, I've got something. You should do this." So they're even offering up offerings to the podcast.
Oh,
So
yes. Yeah. It's
kinda
been a
fun.
trend. It's
Yeah.
great. Speaking of some trends, I have been on socials lately and feeling a little convicted
Yes.
of the people that I've been following and watching and getting becoming a fan of when it comes to what they create. And is it for them or is it truly for God? And this has come in line actually a lot with the scripture I've been reading in my morning Bible studies. And it's convicted me lately. And Luke, I don't know if you know this. Our team
Imposter
mentioned this
syndrome.
yesterday. Imposter syndrome. Not of what I'm putting out right now, but of just what I'm consuming from people. And I've recently started some multiple accounts for the different things I do in my life because, social media is very niche.
Because why would you only have one account?
Why? Why would you want to manage just one?
Yeah.
But, I've just been looking at the world lately, wondering, is what we create truly for God anymore? Especially when it's put out on socials, or is it for us?
So good.
I get a little judgmental. I see the people who cry onto their phone camera, post it, and they're like, I never do this, but if you scroll, there's a few crying videos.
You're always doing it, yeah.
And it's at what point do we create just for God and we leave it private, we leave it secret or hidden, and we leave it a reverent moment that doesn't need to be shared with anyone?
That reminds me immediately of a moment. Andy Mineo, part of the 116 team, was on Winter Jam, and he apparently did chapel one morning, basically like a devotional of some things that the Lord had put on his heart, and he really kind of attacked the idea that. And I may get in trouble for saying this, so I apologize to whoever it was that told me this story if I'm not allowed to talk about this. But basically, in Christian media and Christian music, and I think potentially even in the church, we will take something that the Lord is doing in our own personal lives, maybe that was designed for us, and we try and put it in a box and we productize it, and then it now becomes our latest single. And he essentially was really convicting the idea of when was the last time that the Lord gave you something that was just for you? Yeah. Because so often we're oh, that speaks to me. I should turn that into a song. But now that means,
my word, yes, right
now that
there.
means every single moment you have with God is.
Yeah.
And he says if you go in that route, every single moment you have with God is going to turn into research for your next album, and it's not actually just relationship with God. It's not just
Pharisees without
did you
knowing
create
it.
something for God? Yeah.
And I think that's the default. I think when people take social media breaks, it's because, or at least for me, I've done it once where I'm I feel convicted. I need a social media break. But it's because, you're thinking of everything you do, how do I write the good caption for that? How do I turn this into a reel? And it's you can't just have these private moments anymore with God. We're taught to pray in a closet, pray that you're not just putting it out there for everyone to see. And yet that is what our culture is encouraging us to do now these days.
Well, that reminds me of, I think, a bit of this conversation that I had with Cass at conference this past year. Cass Langton, we're going to play a little clip of that interview, but this is a deep and rich interview at large.
Yes.
So I don't want you to miss it, but this kind of reminds me of all that.
Yeah. Let's take a listen to this.
Talk about how visuals and art and various forms of creative mediums can translate language and transform, barriers that people have. Like I've met people who don't want to hear a preacher.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You probably know production people or creative people who do that. How does art transcend that? Or how can we as creatives leverage that?
I think it matters so much. Have you read anything that N.T. Wright's written on this stuff?
I am embarrassed that I probably have not read enough of N.T. Wright. No.
Because he talks about art being the highways on which the Spirit travels. Talks about it being a signpost toward God. And I think art has the most incredible opportunity to bypass the head and go straight to the heart.
Yes.
We used to give our team a 100-day creative challenge. Every summer, we would go, hey, while we're not having team nights, while we're not meeting together, why don't you take these prompts and go and do something with them? And people would begin to create things, music, art, all sorts of stuff. But I can remember one girl sent the video of our 100-day creative challenge to a girl in Beijing. This all has something to do with your art. And she was living in the middle of China and unable to share the gospel. And she heard this 100-day creative challenge and she started painting our stories. She started painting like God speaking the world into existence and light. And then she painted like the parting of the Red Sea, the burning bushes, the lion's den. She painted like all of our stories up until Jesus. And then she hired an art gallery downtown Beijing and she hung all of these paintings.
Oh my gosh.
And she said while she was exhibiting, people would walk in off the street and they would look at the stories and they would just burst into tears. And without any explanation of what was going on, they encountered Jesus.
Yeah.
And the art and the beauty just gave way to the Spirit actually luring their hearts in. And I feel like that is what art does.
Yeah.
It's what beauty does. It actually creates an ability for people to see God, whether it is in the explicit or it's just in beauty. I have a friend, Leanne, who is an incredible artist, and she paints hydrangeas. And she paints like flowers and exhibits them. But she goes, every time I do it, something about the beauty just points to God and people see beyond what's actually there. And I think that was the aim of like all the Renaissance guys and the cathedrals and the paintings, that we would see something beyond what was able to be seen in the natural and it would give glory to God.
100%.
I think we have the opportunity to create those churches now. We've become so stereotyped and bland and we've lost some of that. But it's a God-given gift. The first time he poured out his Spirit, it was on Bezalel, who was an artist. And his whole...
to teach others that same Spirit,
craftsman who was to design the temple. I just feel like
And there was so much intentionality in the colors and the textures and the fabrics. And you start reading this and you're like, oh my gosh, God cares a lot about the visual of his church.
Well, and God is the ultimate artist, right?
Yes.
He hides creatures in the depths of the sea that nobody will ever see. And who, like... the way he creates is excessive and beautiful, and we're meant to model that. I'm a fan.
I'm like sitting here thinking, Jesus, said, I came not for the healthy, but for the sick. And I wonder if we've taken that a little too far to make our churches more like hospitals than the cathedrals of age that would usher us into a space. I remember years ago, I was in a cathedral and the pastor, I said, like, there was this like songbird that was carved into wood way up in the rafters, like back in the back. And I said, what's this bird for? Like, was this a room or a space that maybe people were in? Because it was just a gorgeous atmosphere or a gorgeous carving in this. And he said, no, I actually don't know this for certain, but the stories that we hear from the people who made this was they wanted to put art in places that no human or congregant would ever go, so that the art could worship in spaces in this cathedral that people's voice may not necessarily resonate.
I love that.
Oh my goodness. What does that look like for us in the church?
Right. And like all those stories about like Rembrandt, who paints himself into all the pictures, like the storm and sea of Galilee. And there's 13 disciples, because he so identifies with their lack of faith and their lack of courage in the face of what is happening, but he wants to be there. I'm like, there is something about art that paints our way into the story that allows us to imagine differently and see God, which is so fun. I spent a lot of time at the Vatican. My favorite sculpture is there, the Pieta, which is like Mary holding Jesus' body. And it's the most amazing piece of art. But she has a sash on her. And apparently Michelangelo, like, he sketched his name into it because they said that that Rodin had done the sculpture, not him. And he got so full of pride that he decided to mark it. He'd never signed a piece of his work before. Then he signed this, and then he scratches his name out of it because he was so convicted by God that the art that he had created wasn't for his glory, it was for God's glory.
Oh, wow.
And he wrestled with that struggle.
So that's what the satchel is
Yeah.
covering,
Don't you find that amazing?
I love it. Yes.
Too.
I love Cass Langton. She is just
incredible.
gold.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful woman. Before we dive any further, I just want to give the shout out and the pitch. Salt Community is the place where we're having these conversations regularly, monthly.
So much deeper.
Yes. Yeah. We are diving in with our community in person monthly on Zoom calls, talking about specific topics, being able to build that community. Because we know, I mean, we didn't really, you and Cass didn't really get into it on this interview, but doing church is lonely. It's difficult.
It is.
And you need people around you. You need people to bring your struggles to sometimes, hear maybe how they worked through a similar situation and come out of it. You need to be learning from experts, sometimes outside of just your own team and your own staff. And we're doing that at Salt Community. So
obviously Salt Community has online learning. It has this entire, not this entire thing, but like the entire keynote that Cass did at conference this past year. It has a ton of other courses and curriculums you can dive into, but talk about meetups, right? You talk about the loneliness piece and how this kind of idea behind it.
Yeah, once a month we get on Zoom and we take time to chat. I mean, it's still a bit of a newer group, so we're still getting to know each other. Talk about, well, what are you guys going through in your church this week? Some people, it's renovations. It's been VBS, at the end of the summer winding down. We've had a few of those conversations, but it is a chance to really connect. We typically hear from an expert in the field and we pull one topic that we know people can just learn from, dive into deeper, ask questions, say, hey, I'm in this situation. What do I do for my team? Or, it's been leadership, production. I'm trying to think. It's been just technical
audio
elements.
Mixing,
Audio mixing, so many different things. Because that's our community. It's all these different fields of interest. So,
I don't like the phrase expert as much as I like thought leader. Like we have someone who's bringing an idea to the table.
Yeah.
And then we're going to all unpack it together. And I've enjoyed, there's been a few times where people are like, well, this is something I've done and I can help you with that answer too. And it's not just we're getting like open coaching from one person. We want to be community. We don't want to just say that we're community. So super excited about that. So
check it out, saltcommunity.com. You can come be a part of it. You can have these conversations with Luke and I.
Yep.
It can be 3 people at this table or more. But let me jump back into Cass's interview.
Oh, so golden.
I have to be a little critical because I am the practical mindset person. I love the idea of churches being cathedrals again. Like, gorgeous, beautiful thing to me. I think there's a reverence and a sacredness that we've lost in our everyday Sunday sometimes and in our walk with God individually. But, I mean, look at the church. You have budgets. Everyone's already like running around with so many hats that they wear. Things are on fire all the time. When do we have time to really incorporate art to make cathedrals out of church again and not just be so focused on being a hospital and healing those who are broken that come?
Yeah, and it's funny because I mentioned that in that little interview because she and I had a conversation offline about how there really is, we're potentially kind of on this wave of like a new Renaissance movement that like beauty needs to kind of come back to the church. And it's funny because I recently had an interesting conversation with another kind of thought leader on this topic, Winfield Bevins. He wrote a book called Beauty Will Save the World. And he kind of has this concept in there that I think kind of ties into this. And that is beauty's not extra. It's formative. So I think the concept that he's trying to unpack here is beauty isn't this like final layer that we put after all the real ministry is done. It's actually the foundation. It's the thing that like helps allow people to think about how they live, work, and follow Jesus, right? It's not just an extra layer. It's not like, oh, well, we've done all the strategy and implementation. Now let's think about design. It's almost
that's how it is now, though.
That is how it is now, and that's why I think it's hospital, right?
Yeah.
Like my wife has been in the medical industry; she's a nurse practitioner. I understand that like it's all process first, and then it's bedside manner.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say, what does it look like for the church? Say, how do we start with art? How do we start with beauty, and let it actually? I mean, she kind of talks about this, that like she would look at art, or we would view things and it would speak to us in a way that a sermon never could, and in a way that music never can, or lyrics necessarily never can. But it's like once you pair it with music, there's something beautiful that kind of goes.
And I think you're right. It used to be the foundation in which we did things. I mean, look at the churches of old. They were built to be beautiful. The sparrow in the corner. Like that was how people thought. And now it's, what's the cheapest way? What's the fastest way? What's the cleanest way? I mean, I won't get into the whole interior design side of things. I have an interest in that, but the way things have just become oversimplified. And it's funny because millennials now, who used to grow up being like, I want minimalism. Now we're like, we miss the maximalism. We miss having art in our home, like good art. We miss the homemade things. We miss our homes looking collected and not just procured, And what if the church turned into that too? Homemade and collected.
I think, I don't know. I just feel like a graphic, a lighting cue, art installation, song selection, camera shot, whatever. It's not just presentation. It actually has the opportunity to become pastoral.
Yeah.
And I think that if I were to say anything to our community, I would say, I wonder if you've actually lessened the power of your supernatural gift.
Ooh.
Because I think ultimately, if we don't see our own creative giftedness as an opportunity to reflect and mirror back to creation the very creativity that we see from God in Scripture, if we don't see that power, if we're not transformed by the opportunity of the superpower that we all have, then I actually think we're missing an opportunity to maybe pass that beauty of God onto our church and maybe create in a way that goes, I was made in the image of God, so therefore can I make in the image of God?
Yeah.
Can my art be something that does sort of point people back to God? And can there be beauty in the hydrangeas that Cass's friend talks about, that paints, right? Can there be beauty in the way that we put our work into something? So I don't know. I just feel like they're not just sort of last minute things. Can they be the thing?
I love that. The hydrangeas and the cathedrals conversation, it painted a specific place in my mind. At Indiana Wesleyan University, where I went to college, there was something called Williams Prayer Chapel, And, all of campus was beautiful. They did great with their landscaping, the way they built buildings, but the prayer chapel was special. It was pews, and there was a sculpture of Jesus where the stage would be that a preacher would preach. And it was open, I think in my day, like 24/7, and it was only for prayer. The rules were you stay silent, you go in for prayer, and that was it. There were no other events held there, at least that I know of. Nothing else ever happened there besides maybe just organized prayer times together.
Kind of nervous to even ask how full was the room.
I mean, when I would go, sometimes it was completely empty. Sometimes there were 10, 15 people in there.
Okay.
It had around finals, it was busy. But, if you're...
Please, Lord, help me pass.
Yeah. I just think, like, if you're a church who's like, well, our building's built or we just finished renovation, like, how do we incorporate this art back in? I think of Williams Prayer Chapel. It was beautifully designed. It was made to be reverent and holy and sacred, that I think the cathedrals of old were, that inner, sanctum, the next layer of curtains. But I think that there's an opportunity for churches to find a place.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to renovate. You don't have to, spend billions of dollars creating this whole new section of your wing of children's ministry, whatever it may be. But I wonder if there is a place that people can find in their church to just make a little sacred again, make a little holy, make a little cathedral.
Make beautiful
Make
again.
Beautiful, yes.
I
I guess those
right.
words I think of as beauty.
I think we focus so much on function
Yeah.
and optimizing function of our spaces to how do we get best bang for buck and how do we make sure that we're good stewards. Like we've almost used the word stewardship as like an excuse to remove beauty from something, because is that really stewardship? But I would put that right back on you and go, well, if you were made in the image of God and you were called to make in the image of a creative God, then actually being a good steward is to bring beauty back into the space.
Yeah.
So I love that. Just like the songbird that existed all the way up in those rafters that nobody ever saw.
Yeah.
Do we put beauty back in spaces that maybe is intentional, that isn't there necessarily for everyone to see, but for someone or for God to ultimately see?
Yeah. All right. So Cass shared that their team does like the 100 Creative Things Challenge. I'm putting you on the spot here, Luke, but you're a creative mind. What is a challenge that we can give to our community, to the people listening, to help them be more creative with their team in the last throes of summer here?
I think that the easy creative thing that I would challenge everybody with is when an idea is presented, I think it's so natural, and I'm just thinking about myself, but it's so easy to get negative really quickly or to punch holes in things. And I think
that's me.
if I'm speaking to anyone who's listening to this that is a technician or an engineer or has a brain of like improvement and optimization and I see pathways of things, my challenge to you is don't call out the negative immediately. Call out the positive. Call out not what could make this better, but what already makes this better. That's the challenge I would say right out of the way. Because as we start pivoting to see the beauty that already exists, rather than trying to always say, oh, we can make this better, we're inadvertently kind of shutting down the very idea before we ever allow the good ideas to surface.
Yeah.
And so by not going immediately to the negative could very well be the encouragement that your own community needs to essentially kind of dive in and hopefully resurrect beauty again.
Yeah. And if you're someone, I just want to challenge on the opposite end. Maybe you're creative and you're like, yes, I needed this message. I need my leader to hear this message and I need no rules. I just need to go create and be artistic in my church. I would challenge you to have rules, create rules. Maybe it's not something you share with someone. Maybe you put yourself on, a strict diet of social media. I mean, that's where we started this conversation of I will create 5 things and 2 of them every week will not ever be shared with anyone. Yeah. It's just for me and God. Or maybe it's the rule is.
I think that's a challenge.
Yes.
Go create something just for God.
Yeah.
Go write a song, a poem. Go do a graphic art. I said years ago when I was teaching visual worship and conferences, I said, when was the last time you made a design if you were a graphic designer? When was the last time you wrote a sermon just for God? Mm-hmm. Which is a weird thing to think about, right? If you're a pastor.
Yeah, that's work.
But it's the act of saying this isn't for anyone else but a surrender of my giftedness to a very creative God who the very first characteristic we see is creativity. Mm-hmm. I think he'll honor your creativity in powerful ways.
Yeah. What a transformation. What a revolution we might see in our lives.
And if you do it,
our online lives.
Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. Please comment. Please share.
Actually, don't.
Photos.
Don't tell us. I just said do it.
Oh, wait.
For this guy. So that I just
we both just jumped on that bandwagon of we want to know.
We want community. But don't tell us. So, yeah.
All right. Well, next week, we're going to almost segue off this conversation. We have an interview with Wade Joy we want to talk about.
So good. Elevation.
About calling and purpose. And what happens when maybe it's not what you think?
Yeah, he has a crazy story that hopefully we'll tell.
Yep. So tune in next week. Join us on YouTube. Comment on Instagram, your favorite part, the little changes on set, whatever it may be.
By the way, we've had over 1,000 new people join our YouTube channel in the last couple of weeks. So if you have not already subscribed, the wave is growing. The tribe is expanding. We'd love for you to be a part of that. So make sure you subscribe, and share it with a friend, this conversation. We'll see you guys next week. Mm-hmm.